Hi, everybody.
Hello.
We are here tonight with Mr. Michael Evanchenko, right?
Hmm?
Chinko? Chinko?
You had
Okay. I was like,
so
it
well with the video.
was so bad with names. Like, it's one of those things like where you're reading in a book or something, and I'm reading Shadow and Bone right now, and it's just so much Russian sounding things that
Uh,
it's just like,
I get
and
it.
then your brain skitzes out. It's just like, can we get an enunciation key? Would it like kill somebody to put an enunciation key in these things?
Right.
Like, so why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? And then I have questions about the books because I'm very intrigued by these.
Okay. Well, I'll start. I grew up in Pennsylvania, a small town in oh God, Pennsylvania. You can see I'm like crammed in this space here. So if I move anyway, something's flying.
So I
Um,
don't know how this is going to last. That's starting to pinch my brain.
so yeah, I grew up in a small town in Pennsylvania. Moved to Ohio after I graduated. Lived there about 30 years. Moved to Tennessee. It's where I'm at now. But I've always kind of been
You're in
fascinated.
Tennessee?
I'm in Tennessee,
Where?
Cookville.
I'm in Morrison, right outside Manchester.
Okay. Now, day job, my day job, we sell to a company called Morrison.
Really? Well,
Um,
like it's basically I always say Manchester because Morrison, Tennessee is not a town. It's a strip of highway that they decided to call a town. It's not a town. It's a strip of highway. It's like
how
it's so
fun! We're practically neighbors.
yeah. I didn't know you were in Tennessee. I was like, wait a minute, Cookville. I know where that is.
I'm in
Why
Cook.
would you
We're,
move to Tennessee from Pennsylvania? It's got to be better than here. Like, I'm always baffled by people coming from other states to Tennessee because I'm just like, why? Why would you do that?
yeah.
Why? Yeah, this is pinching my head.
Uh, Yeah. So, well, I moved here because of my job, my day job, which is a manufacturing plant in Sparta, Tennessee. Um, we
I'm
do,
not that far away from Sparta.
yeah, we do foam and plastic fabricating for auto manufacturers, and Morrison is an auto manufacturer, and they are in Morrison somewhere too. But yeah, so I moved here for my job, but I guess I've always been interested in the arts. I never really got into them deeply until 2010-ish. I did some stage productions, and then I got into some acting and film. And then
Yeah,
I just
one of your films really kind of had me like very intrigued. I have questions because
okay.
the storyline was really, really interesting. I was like, why isn't this a book?
Was it one that I wrote or?
It it was I think it was Wicked Business, I think was the title of it
Yep,
from
yep.
2009, like where everybody's let me see if I can remember the plot line. Basically, like everybody's trying to serve. I'm sorry. I cannot remember specifics. I'm sorry. I feel bad. Like I do have notes, but I
It's a
try.
collection agency.
Yes.
Was big back in those days because everyone was going bankrupt or so the workers at this agency all receive curses in the form of letters in the mail, and um,
See, I got
it-
it backwards. I was like, are they reapers? They're collecting souls, right? Because I thought collection company, but I was just like, wait a minute. That
yeah,
doesn't I don't think that's right.
so they all
Yeah,
get
like it
deaths, and the remaining survivors or victims have to figure out what's going on, who cursed them, and how they can reverse the curse before they're all dead. And that is on YouTube.
it's
You can watch that
oh,
for
it's on YouTube?
YouTube.
I'm gonna
Now,
have to mark that.
I don't really promote it because it's not that good. It's kind of like one of those schlocky, low budget.
Those
you know,
are the best films. Like everybody, like I have a friend from Canada, James. He writes all of his own scripts, shoots all of his own stuff. I love it. Like, is it like it's very low budget? But I mean, things that are low budget doesn't just because it's low budget doesn't mean it's not going to be good.
yeah,
Like, there's somebody that likes everything.
true,
So
true. I
besides,
think,
like the Sci-Fi Channel wasn't exactly the most high budget thing, but they made some killer shows.
which,
Literally,
yeah, it's, I like the story. I just, the way that we filmed it and with the budget that we had, it could have been done a lot better with a bigger budget and a lot tighter edit. The editing could have been done better. And I will take blame for all of it because I basically did it all. I did. I did the editing as well.
everything's a learning experience. Like I'm still trying to figure out how to edit YouTube videos from the lives. It's very confusing because there's so many like little slices, and I'm just like, I'm gonna mess up something if I touch this. I need to know more before I start trying.
Yeah, yeah.
But I mean, the premise of it was like it sounded like it would be great for a novel because it sounded like it would fit into the Dead Like Me type category because it kind of runs along that line. So I was like, that would be really good as a book. Why don't you do it as a book?
I might. I've actually thought about my first film. It's called Ritual Blood Bonds. It's about a satanic cult. I actually thought about making that into a book at some point. So maybe Wicked Business could as well. I mean, the story's already there. It probably would be pretty easy to write it.
No, that. I mean,
And Dead Like Me, I was just scrolling coincidentally last night on Hulu. I believe it's on Hulu right now. At least the movie they made after
yeah, there's a movie that they made after the fact because I don't know what happened during the filming, but Mandy Patinkin was there and then Mandy Patinkin wasn't there. And I don't know what happened, but I don't know why. Like, Sci-Fi, what did you do to Mandy Patinkin? Like, you pissed off Inigo Montoya. What did you do?
he
But
seems to get pissed very easily. He seems to leave all of his shows.
he doesn't really stick around with TV very long. I will say that. Yeah, he was in like Dangerous Minds and he's been in a bunch of stuff. But like I grew up with him as Inigo Montoya, so like he's always gonna be Inigo.
Yeah.
He's on TikTok. It's actually pretty funny.
And he does have, I think, a new show out now, but I think it's one of those limited, like 8-episode things. So maybe he needs to stick with those types of shows.
Well, I mean, which do you prefer doing the most? Do you prefer blah, blah, can't talk, waiting for the caffeine to kick in? Do you prefer? Come on, enunciate. What is happening to my brain? Do you prefer writing scripts and making films like that, or do you prefer keeping it more into like the novel sphere?
I would say I prefer the novels now because after Wicked Business, because the first movie, Ritual Blood Bonds, got picked up for distribution, and that was when the straight to video DVD craze was happening in the 2000s. And I made some money on that sucker. So I used that money to fund Wicked Business, and I actually was able to pay my cast and crew. But it didn't help. It didn't help the production. I don't know. I guess I thought
more marketing, because I mean, I think it does seem like it's a very niche kind of concept. But if you could have hit the pocket with the nerds, I don't see why that thing wouldn't have flown.
yeah.
Like it
I should have used the budget on marketing. Instead, I paid the people that helped me in the film that weren't very helpful. My director of photography was stoned every day we shot. Yeah, on this video. Oh wow. But I've learned after that film, I pretty much stopped directing in general. I don't know.
Too much stress.
it stressed me out. I was also acting in the film, so I am in the film myself. I
Too
didn't
many
have a
hats.
team. That's what I was missing, a strong team behind me. They wanted to argue everything. They wanted to say no to everything. And it was my money. So yeah, I
This
just
is
got
my
very
baby. Back off.
right. And that's the thing. People, when it's your baby, it's hard for people to commit um, to something that they haven't done themselves as just like, an employee of sorts.
You have to really put your faith in people when you go leaping into like film and stuff that, it's out there. It's going to be out there for forever. So it's kind of like,
Yeah.
but realistically, like you're given the opportunity. Like I'm big on like being grateful for what you're offered. Like everybody has to get their foot in the door. So offering somebody who's wanting to learn the opportunity to learn, but also be a part of something, kind of just enjoy the ride and don't don't rock the boat.
I know.
It's fairly
Yeah.
simple. But I
That
mean,
was,
maybe you could try again. There's a huge like cosplaying community on TikTok. You could always tap into that.
yeah. I've since, I use Video Leap on my phone. That's what I use to edit my videos on TikTok. And it's so easy. It's so user friendly that I feel like I could now edit something a lot better, like feature length, like right on my phone. But I don't know if I don't know if I'm ready to commit to something like that again. Also, I feel like after that experience with Wicked Business, I work better alone. And writing novels, I don't have to.
You don't have to answer to anybody.
Or answer to anyone. Yes.
Well, I mean that there's a lot less stress. You're only responsible for yourself, so it's kind of like you have more freedom.
Right.
I can get that.
Yep.
Like it's kind of like I would love to write and do movies and stuff like that, but the whole like for filmography of it, like I can't tell you the perfect shot to stand in. I can't frame things properly, as evident by like how I've framed us. I mean it's confusing to me. There's so much math required for actually knowing how to fix your camera, what kind of film you're using, what speed to record things at, how you're going to train it up with the audio.
Yeah.
So it's just like, can I just write it and give it to somebody and then somebody can do it? Like, I don't want to do the thing. I don't want to be there. I've always just thought it'd be better as a writer on set. Be like, look, I can write you something and I can tell you if you're doing it right. That's all I can do. That's where my expertise stops.
That's why a good team.
Yes.
Don't have a good team, then you're going to look like a total idiot every single day. So is what I learned.
Sometimes some of the most low budget stuff end up becoming cult classics. So you never know.
Well, if you check out Wicked Business on YouTube and you love it, you could be responsible for making it a cult classic. So I'm going to leave that up to you.
Oh, I will definitely repost that. I will. I'll take clips and frickin' post it everywhere. I like helping people. That's that's what I do with most of my time, other than podcasting. I like reposting everybody. Like whenever I caught, well, Chris, of course, is what brought me to your channel, and then as I got to watch some more of your interviews, especially the one with Ginger, the last time, you're really good at doing interviews. Like you're very like knowledgeable, you're very but you're also very kind of involved with the chat is where you don't like at times have blinders on. You pay attention to your guest first. But I mean, you do a really amazing job at interviews.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. I mean, it's just true. But the concept that you guys have, and you're working towards helping indie authors, that's something that I kind of want to try to do fix this before the end of the year to where this is primarily just indies that I have on the show. But I mean, it's really an admirable thing. And it's something that I don't think there is anywhere on TikTok that I've seen that there's purely just, people having indie authors in. So that's pretty, I mean, that was pretty amazing. Very, very impressive.
Thank you. Thank you. I just started, well, I was doing lives every Monday. It was kind of my thing at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. And I just got sick of sitting there myself talking. And I thought, why don't I start pulling other people on? I don't want to make it like this big thing, but, just a half hour after, from like 7 to 8, and at 7:30, have a guest every week now. So it's kind of what I'm doing. And I have another guest lined up, Michael Malwassel, Paragon Exordium. Are you familiar with his book? Okay.
What? I'm gonna have to look that one up, or like I'll have to definitely look it up, and I'll put the link to it in the description whenever I find the link to it.
You're more of a fantasy. Yeah.
I'm big Game of Thrones and George R. R. Like I'm eclectic. I generally read a lot of pretty much anything, except for like age gap stuff and stuff that is like very violent towards women. I've not been shy about it. Like I'm an SA survivor, so some of the stuff that I've read has been difficult. But like I'm trying to push myself out of that like comfort zone, because it's like life is hard. You've got to learn to do the hard things. But yeah, the age gap stuff that I've seen all over TikTok, I'm just like, how and why? No.
So it's romance?
Yeah, it's romance. It's okay. So it'd be like Anthony Hopkins at the age he is right now with somebody the age of Taylor Swift.
Okay. No.
I mean, no shade or shame on anybody who enjoys it, but
now, is that big in the fantasy world? Fantasy novels?
It happens in a lot of fantasy novels. It's more in the contemporary kind of genres, but like it's in the spicy community really, really heavily, which I'm still new to book talk entirely. Like that's why I like learning and meeting new people, because I know nothing. I am literally Jon Snow. I know nothing. Like I just know I like books and I like reading the books, but other than that, I know nothing. So like JL was the one, JL, who was an ARC reader for Chris's first book, Aubrey Fisher, was the one that talked me into starting this podcast because of a joke I made on TikTok. So this is all because of JL, and I love her and I thank her for it. And she'll be on every once in a while, hopefully this year. She's just kind of like got work stuff that prevents her from doing it. But yeah, I do Star Wars podcasting primarily. This is new. So like, how do you approach interviews and stuff? I'm learning from watching you guys and how you guys are more interactive and what you need to like narrow the scope towards. So you guys are, I mean, your interviews and things like that, your shows of an evening like that are really helpful to people who want to kind of learn how to do things properly.
Yeah.
Hi, Kalina.
Approach is bringing on people that I've been following for months, that I know their backgrounds, I know what they've been doing, I know their books a little bit. So that way there's already like an established rapport between us, even if we've never spoken to each other. So it's almost like you finally get to meet someone you've admired from afar for a while. So I'm kind of, it's kind of, I'm kind of fanboying a little bit as well. So I think that helps with the interviews.
It's kind of nice to have somebody that like you can kind of go off of. Like it's a lot. Interviewing is a lot more fun, and having a conversation is a lot more fun than just kind of sitting and droning. It becomes really kind of not monotonous only for you, but also for the audience, because you're just like, am I losing them? Are they still there? What's going on? I can't focus. But I mean, you do an amazing job at it. Like you should like definitely start a YouTube if TikTok goes the way that it might. Hopefully it won't. Hopefully, because that's a happy place for me. I don't want TikTok to go bye-bye.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's it's a lot more welcoming than other spaces
Yeah.
in general. But
Instagram is just not as personal. Um, I feel like people don't interact on there like they do on TikTok. They
it's
don't.
hard to get engagement with posts on Instagram. Like you might get like 5 or 6, maybe 7 if you post something, but and it's like even if you post consistently every day, sometimes it's hit or miss. You've got to have like some sort of weird gimmick or be beyond believably beautiful. And I'm just like, well, I'm screwed. I'm not going to get anybody's attention. So I try to do silly things. And I'm like, I can do silly things and let people laugh at me and that'll get me attention. So I just post funny videos for my own benefit. I think it's fun. So if it stops being fun, I just stop doing it.
Yeah. I tried to be really creative when I first joined TikTok because I thought that's what would get me discovered. And it didn't really work that way. And then I see people just like farting at Walmart
Mhm.
and getting millions of views. And it's just, that's not my shtick. Like, am I going to sell books by farting at Walmart? I don't think so.
Maybe if you go to the book section, it's horrible.
Yeah.
So High
Okay.
Square.
Yeah.
Yeah. There are some things that I've seen on TikTok, and I'm just like, how did I end up on this end of the universe? Can I somebody get me out of here? Primarily, it's like books and book talk things, and uh, like dogs. I follow more dog accounts than I do human accounts because the
Mm,
puppies make me happy.
yeah.
So it's really hard marketing. Like that's another thing to like talk about. Like the marketing in the indie community, from what I understand, is it's all on you guys. Like you guys essentially have to do everything yourself. You have to write the book, then you have to promote it, then you have to get it through the publishing process, beta readers, just cover design. Like what was it like coming from film into that kind of realm of things that are happening?
Well, when I wrote my first book, I didn't know it was like a 7-year process. So I wasn't sure anything would ever happen with it. And I was querying vendors or querying literary agents then because that was the route that you were supposed to go. And that was 2005, 2006, 7, 2010. Anyway, it was before I realized there was an indie world for books and that people actually did this themselves. But I did find an agent for my first 2 books. They were smaller. They're called Crimson Cloak Publishing. They're out of St. Louis, Missouri. But I met them. I got involved with them through an acting gig that I had. One of the ladies that acted in the show with me, her husband was a published author. So he got to reading my book and he liked it. He submitted it to them and they offered me a contract. So I was like, wow.
That's nice.
But yeah, but after 2 books with them, um, I realized I might have better luck selling and making money on my own because they had maybe 3 people that worked for their small press. Um, so we parted ways a couple years ago, and I've sold more books on my own than I did with them. So I don't know what the question was initially, but from film to books.
Yeah.
Again, I think I like the book world because it's just me. It's a lot more difficult, but it's I can control every aspect of it. I'm a control freak, I guess. Um,
I, I think everybody who writes to a certain degree has like it from the few writers that I've met, it's in me being one myself. I like it's I don't I've had to learn the hard lesson, which I think there she is. There's JL. We were just speaking about you, my darling.
Oh,
This is the lady that is responsible for all of the shenanigans that happen on this episode, or not this episode, but this podcast. This is her baby too. JL's awesome. I love JL. But I think pretty much anybody who writes, I've had to go through the process of learning I can write what I want to write the way I want to write it because I don't have to be like everybody else. And like I queried people as well, like with some of my first writing stuff. And like I was writing 6 books at the same time. So I sent in like the first 30 chapters of all 6. And I think they read 30 out of the first book and that was it. But they asked for all 6. But like she was like, well, you change perspectives a lot. And you talk in first person, then you go into narration, then you go back to second person. And I was like, I've always been told by people who have read my stuff, I write more like you're watching a film. It's like you're seeing a movie. So whenever I would send that in, they would just be like, you just need to read your favorite book and copy what they're doing. And I'm like, isn't that kind of like plagiarism to steal somebody else's writing style?
yeah.
I was like, that you're a literary agent and you're kind of giving me that advice. I'm good. I'm good. I don't need to do that. So I just kind of like, I left it on the shelf and stuff, but JL and Chris and, Kalina's been really awesome. And Square's been kicking me in the butt, making sure that I actually put effort behind my stuff. So like the indie community, I will say this is probably one of the more, welcoming communities that I've ever experienced.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what's been your experience coming into a community like that? Just coming into TikTok, just blind.
Yeah. I've had some really good experiences. I've met some really awesome other indie authors as well as book talk people, readers. But it's such a huge world. And I feel like I've only like hit like just a smidge of it. So that's what I'm constantly trying to figure out. How can I connect with a bigger crowd? Like when I put videos out, are they going to the right audience? And I have no control over that. That goes back to my control issues. So I don't know. So I get frustrated sometimes, but then I think it's out of my control. All I can do is what I'm doing and hope that it infiltrates somewhere. I don't know.
I will give you a little bit of a secret to help with the algorithm, because this is not TikTok. I can say what I want here. This is my house. So if you go through, whenever you like, say you post a video and you get maybe 20 comments and you go through and you like all of those comments, and then you make a comment under every comment, every single person, whether it's an emoji or an actual sentence or what, like that. Go through, like every comment, like every single, like even your own, like them all. It counts towards interaction and pushes you out into the algorithm. That's how, like, I'm not going to mention names, but there was somebody that we supported at one point in time, and that's how we got him from like 30K to 100K in less than 2 months. Wow. So it's, as long as, like, if everybody with their following that they have, like I have 1,600 followers on the pod page and 3,300 on my main. If those people saw something that I posted, reposted it, and then did the same, like, you could push so many indie authors out further than the book talk community that it would be so beneficial. That's why, like, I keep telling Chris, I keep telling a lot of the people that I know within book talk, I'm like, just like them all and push them out. Predominantly I do it with like the cosplayers and things like that. Like Kalina and I are part of a subgroup for Tyler James, who's one of the big Resand cosplayers. He's an amazing guy. So we try to show him support, but yeah, like that's a legit trick. Like, it works.
So like reposts, all that kind of
Like
stuff.
repost, but mainly like the comments, just like every comment, like your own responses to the comment, and just like do that on every video and it'll push you out further.
So it
Like,
keeps, yeah.
yeah, it counts towards interaction. And if those people like what happens basically is they make a comment, you reply to the comment, and all of that gets liked. So most of the time when people see a comment being liked, they respond again. So that's more interaction. So it's kind of like a cyclical thing. It just keeps pushing you out further and further and further, which can be annoying to some of my followers. I'm sorry, because I do it so often.
Yeah.
JL wants to know, Michael, who was the author that inspired you to become a writer?
So this is going to sound cliche, but Stephen King. Stephen King. I grew up with. I grew up in the '80s, or late '70s, '80s, and he was the first author that I really connected with, and began to love the horror genre. Books like
Which one of his books did you kind of
Blood
latch into first?
is my number one.
It.
It's yep. It's Salem's Lot, Pet Cemetery, The
I
Shining.
don't like clowns.
Uh,
I've seen both movies and I've got the book, but the clowns, oh, the clown scares me so bad. But it was Tim Robbins that played the first It, so I was just like, right on.
yeah,
Love
I really like the remakes, the movies, the two-parters. Those were really well done. Um,
Oh god, it was so creepy. The Skarsgård kid, just like wow.
and Salem's Lot, the miniseries from 1979, I believe it was, scared the crap out of me. If you've seen that, and
I've seen
the
parts of it, not the whole, but I've seen parts. Like there are so many. Like I don't normally get nightmares over things, but there are very like specific things. Like I loved the miniseries that was Stephen King's Rose Red, and like I understand Mr. King was not a fan of that miniseries, but I I really liked it. I thought it was cast well, and but some of the idea that a house is the thing that you have to be aware of, not ghosts, not goblins or ghouls. The house is
hmm,
eating people. I was just like, okay,
I am not familiar with. That's one I have not read.
oh, it's start with the Diary of Ellen Rimbauer. The Diary of Ellen Rimbauer is like the precursor to Rose Red.
Hmm.
So good. It is. It's like it's set in like the Victorian era, but it sets up like the family, the history of the family, the house being built, and then how the weird stuff starts happening in the house. But it's something that's one of the things I do own that book. I love that book.
Okay.
King is a classic. The Welcome to Deary show that Max is making is going to
I
be interesting.
saw that. Yes, yes, that will be.
Welcome to Deary. What is Welcome to Deary?
It's like I think it's a
I'm naming new things.
prequel to It, I believe. Is that accurate, JL? I think it's yeah, that's what I think it is. Um,
Oh,
they're also
prequel.
my
Like
my favorite slasher series was Friday the 13th. Because of course I grew up with that and it freaked me out as a kid. But
Freddy Krueger.
they're doing um, they're doing a prequel to that. I think it's called Crystal Lake, and it's going to be
That's
yeah,
going to be cool.
like little Jason Voorhees as a child and what led his mother to begin the killing spree. That could be cool, or it could suck.
I mean, I can understand why somebody would go on like I'm as a Star Wars fan, I thoroughly understand having babysat twin 5-year-olds. You know why why some people go Order 66 because kids are kids.
Yeah.
And most of them they're fine until they hit the point of talking.
Yeah.
It's a prequel to a show to it. Cool.
Okay.
Yeah, Freddy Krueger is my nemesis. Like I can't it I never was allowed to watch them until I was like 13 or 14 in like ninth grade. And one of my friends from school came over and we watched all of them in one night. Like
Mm.
not stopping, just like swapping them out left and right. From the beginning all the way up to like the New Nightmare, which was like the very last one that Wes Craven had anything to do with. And I didn't sleep for 3 months. Like I was up at like 1 a.m. every night, sitting in the chair in the living room, just channel surfing because I'm not tired. I'm good. I'm not tired. Like
After like three, I thought it got a kind of cartoonish. I kind of lost interest with Freddy when everything was just a joke for him, you know.
the
Uh,
Freddy versus Jason was pretty bad. It's pretty bad.
it was
Like when Freddy becomes like a cockroach, I was kind of like, okay, I think we've hit a new low here.
it was bad, but you know what? It was kind of fun. It was a little entertaining. We'll give it that.
It was a good premise. Like I think that time period, if you look at like the horror films that came out during that time, like Freddy versus Jason, there was the new Bride of Chucky film that came out around that time. People seemed like they wanted to do remakes, but it was like you have to make it marketable as a remake. So they were like, we're going to make it look like something everybody would enjoy. But then when like the hardcore fans went into it, they were just like, what is this? Why is this?
Yeah.
I mean, Freddy still creeps me out. I did like the newer one, which I know not a whole lot of people did, but I thought it was really well done. Like the visual effects and stuff like that. I thought it was very well done. The dude they got to play Freddy was definitely unsettling.
I can't say I've seen that the whole way through. Yeah, remakes in general just kind of don't interest me a whole lot. But they did the Friday the 13th remake was I think 2009 or something. That was just I don't know.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it was kind of funny to see Jason like stabbing Freddy repeatedly, being like, "Why won't it die?"
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it was Friday the 13th, 2009.
yeah. I think they had troubles with copyrights for years, and now it's settled. So there could be a new Friday the 13th at some point here soon.
It'd be interesting if they had any of the original cast members that are still around. I know the main guy that did Jason is still around and still bopping from show to show and stuff like that. So that would be kind of cool to see if he would come back. I mean,
Yeah,
that would be different. But I mean, dude still looks like he could swing the machete. So if it works, it works.
yeah.
I mean, Robert England's not coming back to Freddy anytime soon, but if he did, like it would be like Gen Z wouldn't have a hope. Like you guys think you're scared now? Let that man come back and put the hat and the glove on. See what
Right.
happens. Like, like there's a reason why they were dubbed the kings of horror for that generation and for the generation prior. Like our movies were just better. Let's just be honest about it. Our
They were.
movies were better.
Absolutely, I agree.
So what would you like to see done with your books? Like,
Movie.
would you like to continue writing? Well, I mean, obviously success, but would you like to continue writing the stories and stuff? Or would you like with the trilogy that you have sitting behind you, would you ever consider like somebody making those into a film or into like a limited series or something like that?
I've been from local theaters here. I've been asked to make this one, Life in a Supermarket Basket, into a stage show.
Really? That'd be so cool.
Yeah, but I don't know how I would do it because the main character in it, he is basically his life is flashing before his eyes based on his supermarket items because he gets run down in a parking lot of the grocery store. So I should have rewound and started from the beginning on my spiel because I have it down so well. Now I'm a little off. But each item that he left with tells a chapter of his life as his life is flashing before his eyes. But anyway, so each chapter, he's a different age. So you might have him at 3 years old. You might have him as a 15-year-old. You might have him as a 40-year-old. So I couldn't get it into my head how I could do a stage play when you have those different ages. And I certainly wouldn't want to cast
Not a 3-year-old. That would not go well.
aged. Yeah. Now I've seen it done where one person plays all ages and acts
I
like
could,
a child. Uh,
yeah, like mentally, like if they could go there, that would be great. Like
yeah.
I could see that. Like it would be nice if you, well, it would be nice if you had somebody that would be the character at first. Then once he is hit and reliving those moments, you just have like a placeholder laying there where people can't really tell is that the same dude or not. Like it's just profile. And
Yeah.
then just have the guy that they see at the very beginning like almost regress, like do it like Christmas Carol style. Like have him almost like seeing ghostly visages. It would be really cool. You could do it like that.
Huh. That is interesting. The Christmas Carol, that's because he is viewing these flashbacks from his near death experience in the afterlife. I like that.
See, you're gonna get it off the ground. It's gonna be awesome.
I just don't want, I just think it would be distracting. I just think it would be distracting if an adult, for a 40-year-old was acting like a little child.
You'd have to get like you would have to get somebody that was really good at like there are people that I will say that can make you believe they have like a younger mindset, and it's kind of astonishing because I've seen like I've watched them on TV and stuff, but I've seen plays where there are people who actually like almost age regress when they're telling their story from like the child's perspective versus the adult perspective. And it's when it's done right, like it grabs you, it keeps you like interested in things because you're just like, I want to see what's gonna like how is he gonna do the next thing? Because when you start that young, it's kind of like, okay, how are we gonna go next? Are we going to the teenage years or what's gonna happen here? But I mean, I think you could totally do it that way. Like it would be awesome.
Yeah.
Don't my and JL knows this. My the thing that I always say is never say anything is not possible.
Yeah.
Anything is possible. And I mean, it's better to try than not ever, just sit there and wonder, could I have done it? You
Yeah.
can do it. Do it. Like very Palpatine about things. Do it. But
Yeah.
so like that one you've been offered to make that into like a stage event and stuff. So what about the other two? Would that be something they would let you do after the first one? Maybe make the other two and make it into almost like a
So
series?
I think Life in a Savage Landfill, since it all takes place in the landfill per se, that could be easier to make into a stage production. Um, Neon Knapsack, again, you kind of have a coming of age type thing where you have the older version of the main character and then you have the younger version. Um, but there aren't that many age differences, so that could be easier as well. Um, yeah, in order to develop something into a stage production, it takes a lot of time. You write it first, and then um, um, you have to do like public readings of it. There's just a lot of different steps involved, and it's very time consuming. I would have to get to a point where I'd be okay with utilizing 2 years of my life for one project.
I'm just saying.
Yeah. Um,
everything's scary at first, and like I can't even conceive the amount of like work it would take to do something like that. But if it's something that helps get your work out there and it, kind of gives people an active window into what you've experienced in your head that you're telling us via the book, that would be incredible. Like a lot of people see movies in their heads when they read. Like I'm like that. I think JL is. I know Kalina is. I don't know about Square, but it's really nice at times to have that surprise of seeing something in your head outside.
Right. Yeah.
You could do it.
I'll ponder it. Again, I have to
And if
be,
it's a funding thing, there can be fundraisers done, sir.
yeah, yeah. You just, I mean, I don't know. Part of me's like, after I finish a project, even after I write the first draft of my book, I kind of want to get away from it for a while. But I know, I would have to be stuck on this one story for years. And I want to be sure that I can do that
You
without
don't
it.
want to, you immediately after you're done with it, you're like, okay, and next.
Mm-hmm.
Like you kind of get a little bit, you feel like you're stuck in concrete when you're just doing the same characters and the same thing over and over and over again.
Yeah.
When
That's
you write, do you write one draft and then do edits, or do you write like one draft, you look at it yourself and say, I'm not sure if I'm okay with this? And like I'm bad about JL knows this. I'm bad about writing something. I could have 30, 40 chapters done in something, but then I'll hit a point where I'm just like, this doesn't keep my interest.
mm,
Like I don't even care about my own story anymore. So I'll scrap the whole thing and start all over again. Yeah. He's gonna be one of the ones that's like, don't do that
that.
every
uh,
time.
that's why it took me so long to finish a book, because I would get started on something, I would lose interest, and then I would never return to it. And that's why Life in the Supermarket Basket, like every chapter is a different story. So it's almost like an anthology of sorts, even though it is the same character throughout, just the different age ranges that he lives through and the different experiences that he lives through, to me felt like every chapter was a new story. So that kept me going, kept me interested in it. Um, so that was like a 45-year journey to get to a point or figure out a story that I could stay interested in the whole way through.
Well, through the age regression in that book, what was your favorite like age to write for? Did you like the older, kind of more experienced characters, or did you like the more innocent characters that you were writing?
That's a good question. I like that. I would have to say the older that I could relate to, um, because you meet the main character at age 40, and he is down on his luck. He's mentally scarred. He's obese. He just has all these things happening in his life that make him very unhappy. And then when he gets hit by this car, he's kind of given a second lease at life to kind of right all the wrongs through all these flashbacks, and to get to a place mentally, um, that he can accept all the wrongs that he's done in his life, and just to be a healthier, mentally capable person. So I think we all, like when we get to that age, you can kind of sit back and relive your life in a sense, and you could make a list of things that you regret doing,
Oh
things you
yeah.
should do differently. So I think that was kind of therapeutic for me to write him at that age. And a lot of his flashbacks and a lot of what he went through at the different ages, I experienced some of those as well. So yeah, this book was very therapeutic for me.
And what gave you the idea to write it that way? Like, did you start out knowing I want to do this in the age regression to where like he experiences everything, or did you start out like I just want just his voice?
This is where the question is, are you a plotter or a pantser?
Oh,
Um, and for this,
I don't know what I am.
I,
Don't.
I simply started with a list of grocery items. And then and then I had to devise stories around them. So I didn't know where I was headed with any of these, to be honest with you. And that also kept me interested in this story and kept me motivated to get to the end or even get to the next chapter, because I wasn't sure where I was headed with any of it. So yeah, so in that sense, I guess I was a plotter, a light plotter, and then mostly pantser.
I don't know what I would consider myself. I'm like in the middle of things. Like JL says, probably Frey's story. He's her current MMC and current project. JL has a work in progress. I have a work in progress. So like we kind of keep in touch with each other on what we're working on. Like I'm trying to push her towards publication, and she's doing the same with me because she's a really insanely good writer. But like it's I don't know what I would consider myself. Like if I have like I'll have a good line. I'm really good with dialogue. So if I have something crop up in my head that I'm like, oh, that'd be perfect for this character to say, I write that down. But as far as like me sitting down with notebooks or another screen open with like things, I can't do that. It kills my creativity. So I'm just like just zooming along. But if I come up with like an idea or a detail for like a world or a creature or like my world, like I'm overambitious. I created a monetary system and a new dialect. I'm overambitious with
Yeah,
stuff. But I mean I mean it's fantasy. It's kind of high fantasy. So I'm just kind of like, I got to beat the big boys. And the big boys are like, J.R.R. Tolkien and then George R.R. Martin. So it's kind of like, you've got to, if you want to be successful in that sphere, you've got to one up the big boys. And
yeah.
it's like, that is a tall order to actually attempt, let alone succeed at, because
Or
George isn't done.
that's a lot.
So it's like I could get my stuff published, and then he comes out with another book, and I'm right back to
Yeah, right.
all that time. George just flattens me with his newest novel. But I mean, I've not had a whole lot of people that believe in my writing, so it's something that it's very appreciated and very personal, and that I love about the book talk community. So, like, did you have support writing your books, or were you kind of like, no, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this, or was somebody kicking your butt the whole time?
No, it was me entirely. It's been me for all three of my books and the fourth that I'm writing now. So you have to find that motivation. Yeah, I can't. I think if we rely on somebody else, it's never going to get done. You have to believe in yourself and not hope that someone else will believe in you. You know.
I'm very attuned to, well, we're not getting into like psychology here. I've always been told you can't do that. Don't try to do that. You can't do that. Didn't matter what it was, always, you can't do that. That's stupid. Why would you try to do that? You can't make that a real career. What are you doing? And then I'd have people that would ask me to help them with things, and I would help them. They're like, why aren't you writing? You can do this. Just do it. I'm just like, okay. And then I'd try, and it would just, again, with the voices of, you can't do this. You can't do this. So I would eventually like give it up so I could do other things that I felt my time was better spent on, which it was not.
Were
But
there other like human voices, people you know, or was that your own voice in your head?
no,
Yeah,
other people.
those other people. Okay.
Like
So
I'm horrible with promotion too. I hate promoting myself. I love promoting other people because I like seeing other people happy. So whenever it comes to like boosting somebody's book or boosting somebody's video or something like that, I'm like, I am down 100%. Me, on
yeah,
the other hand, I'm that kind of person. I see more potential in other people than I do in myself.
yeah.
Very
That
self.
that's the difficult part. The self promotion. I'm getting better at it, I think. But initially, I didn't want to be doing any of that either. And even when I had book signings early on, before I even found TikTok or Book Talk, a friend of mine would go with me to these book signings, and he would give me crap for not talking about myself and the books and trying to sell. I was just sitting there waiting for someone to come up and buy a book so I could sign it and on they go. But I needed to
That
be mingling, talking about it. Like, people want to hear the path that you took. People want to hear all the journey, I guess, that it took.
I think a lot of that setup though is it's not necessarily keyed towards the author's benefit, because they're like, here's your table. You must stay at your table and that's it. It's like if they would have a moment to let you guys, I don't know, read a chapter or two so you could kind of get comfortable and feel more like, okay, this is what I'm going to touch on if somebody talks to me about my book. I want to talk about this part. I want to talk about this character and this experience. It would give you guys more of like that confidence to have something in your pocket and not just be sitting there for hours waiting for some random person to come up and then you have to pull something out, you know, or answer something that is the most out in left field thing ever.
Yeah.
Because it's intimidating. It's like you guys are just like, just sit there. It's like
I
it
remember
takes away.
my signing. It was at a bar, so I was quite liquored. I needed to have a couple drinks before people even started coming, and then as I'm signing books and stuff, I'm drinking more, not even realizing that I'm doing it. It's just a social anxiety type thing, a nervous. And I don't know if I remember the last 30 minutes to 60 minutes when I was there. I drank too much. So I've learned.
It happens.
I've learned from that. Talk has also helped in that way as well. I think we kind of all suffer imposter syndrome a bit. And I never thought like my books were that great and who would want to read them. And then people started reading them and people started posting reviews on TikTok. And then I was like early on, I'm like, oh, this actually isn't that bad. People like it. So it kind of boosted, it gives you a confidence boost. So I feel more confident now in my books and my ability to write. So that's helping me through this fourth book right now.
So what's the title of this one, or have you released the title? I don't want to drop any spoilers or ruin anything.
I have not released the title of it, nor have I said too much about it, and I'm going to kind of keep it that way.
I don't do that. Don't do that here. Do that on your TikTok channel. That's where that's better used. So let's talk about the second book that you wrote.
Okay. That is Life in a Savage Landfill.
What made you come up with the idea for that one? Because a landfill is not necessarily the most normal setting for a book. So that's very specific. What made you think this is the type of environment I'm going to put my characters in?
So my parents in Ohio, they live close to a landfill. And the only way to get to their place is getting off an exit in Columbus. As soon as you get off this exit to get to their house, you're caught with this disgusting fragrance of of the landfill. So I think that was kind of the start of it.
That would be a good place. That would definitely be memory affirming.
Yeah, it's like there's a stinky landfill. Hey, what if someone was thrown into a landfill? What if like a bunch of people were thrown into a landfill? And then it just kind of stemmed from that, I guess, as simple as that is. But I also wanted, since all three of these books are the trilogy of life, I wanted each of them to kind of have the same format. Like the first book is Life in a Supermarket Basket. It's all, the stories are formed from those grocery items. In this, the stories are formed from the people in the landfill. So we have we kind of start out with who these people are, and then we kind of learn about their pasts. The girl, the weatherman, the blonde, the priest, the actress, the nurse, the convict, the alcoholic. And then we get flashbacks to, like, none of these people are, they all have sordid pasts. They've all done bad things. And they may or may not be in this landfill because of those things. So it's kind of like an unraveling of a mystery throughout. But that, yeah. So
is the landfill like a metaphor for, like, okay, you pretty much, if you're a garbage human being, this is where you end up. You've got to perfect yourself to get out.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, that's without spoiling, that's what the mastermind behind this says at one point. You know, you're trash. You're all trash. Belong in a landfill. So that's it. Now that's like a straight thriller mystery with some elements of horror in it. That's probably the closest to like a Stephen King that I've written. And even that gets a little out there. Some of the stuff that happens is just.
Why did you choose the specific titles? Like you're naming off the agent, the actress, you know, like why pick those specific people? Like, were they just something that, like, you felt you had commentary on, or that you thought would be interesting to explore?
Yes, I like that. I both. I think I had commentary on some of them, and I thought that they would be interesting to explore. I wanted characters that weren't just run of the mill. Like, they needed to be very animated, colorful, and I think this, like the priest, like, I don't know. I grew up Catholic, so I have a lot of Catholicism stuff that messed me up in the head. So I'm able to explore. So I guess this book is kind of therapeutic for me as well. So, yeah.
Which book has been your favorite to write, and which would you say would be your most difficult?
I would say the favorite. Oh, wow.
You're like, don't make me choose among my children.
That's right. They do feel like children. I would say my favorite and the most difficult would be the first, Life in a Supermarket Basket. Again, that was a 7-year journey. The other two, I wrote and edited and got it out probably within a year and a half. But the first one was kind of how I learned how to do it all. So definitely most difficult. Catholic Club. Yes. Guilt.
My atheist. My family raised me, or my mom raised me in Church of Christ. Which, if you haven't encountered them down here in Tennessee, oh boy, wait.
I have not.
Just wait. Oh, they're awesome.
Did you grow up in Tennessee?
Unfortunately, yes. I hate it here. I hate it so much.
Have you been there your whole life?
Yeah, I've lived here my entire life. Only started like traveling when I hit like 23. First place I ever went by myself was New York, and I went for the Comic-Con up there. Like, it's not a story I tell often, but I was posting stuff on Twitter that I was writing at the time, the books I was working on, and there was a actor that I liked in a film. His name's Dan Fogler, and Dan does graphic novels. So I was just like, well, can I just get you to read my stuff and tell me your opinion on it? I was like, I'm not asking you to publish anything, just have a look at it. And he had a look at it and he goes, well, we have a booth set up at New York Comic-Con. So if you can get up here, I'll introduce you to my publisher, and we'll get you hooked up with an artist, and we'll do your stuff as a graphic novel.
Oh.
So I was like, how do I get to New York? I got there, and an experience. Like it wasn't necessarily bad, but there were moments where I was just like, I'm gonna die here because my phone died and it was getting dark and I didn't know where I was, and it like I was on the wrong side of Broadway, like nothing but dark alleys all the way down. And forget asking the police for help. I asked like 7 different cops, and they were just like,
Wow.
I gave them the address where I was staying, and they were just like, meh. Sorry, doll, figure it out yourself. I was just like,
Frightening.
right. But yeah, like it was pretty amazing. Like I did get to meet with the publisher. They wanted to see, a prelim of everything. I got set up with a really incredible artist that did mock-ups of characters for me and of at least one scene. And then the same old thing that always seems to happen. I put myself second and put that off to the side because of a relationship I was in where I was not getting supported in writing or anything. It was just like, this is stupid. Put this off to the side. You're dedicating money and time to this. We don't need this. So it died.
Yeah. Relationships are kind of creativity killers.
He says as he looks off camera and like, go in the room.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you don't have like a good, like, I think with writers and their significant others, whatever kind of relationship it is, you have to have, that person has to understand you as a person.
Yeah.
If you don't have that basic understanding of that person as a person, it's never going to be healthy because, and I think you'll agree with this, as writers, you don't do this just because you want to do this. It's because you feel like you have a story you want to tell. I think every author, every writer has a story they feel like they need to tell.
Yeah, I agree.
So, whatever you get a person that's just like, it's just like, okay, maybe I was wrong. Maybe I don't have anything to talk about. I was going to say,
yeah.
This is actually a piece of art that was done by the artist that I got.
Nice.
His name is Alex Ekman Lawn. He's on Instagram. He is absolutely brilliant. But this is one of the pieces that he did. It's called The Secret. And like, I know it looks like just moldy old trees, but it's snow. It's all snow.
Okay. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Like, that was one of the things he gave me one year. And I was just like, yay, because that's my favorite piece. Stay. But
so have you completed a work yet? A novel?
I am working on a novella, and I just started working on the first couple of chapters of the actual first novel. So this is so bad. I feel bad telling a published author this. This is so embarrassing. I started writing when I was like in my senior year of high school. By the time I graduated, I had a full novel finished. It was a retelling or a sequel to J.M. Barrie's Peter Pan. Never did anything with it. It's still finished. It's still sitting over here. As soon as I finished that, I started writing a different take on the Arthurian legends. And I got like 50 chapters in book 1 done, then started writing book 2 because I had an idea for it, and then bounced over to 3. So at one point, I was writing all of them at the same time, up to 6 at the same time. And it just became this monster that like I felt good about, but everybody just kept telling me that it was just like not possible. And then when I did try to, query it with people, it was the same thing of like, you need to write like everybody else. And I'm like, but I can't. It's not that I just don't want to. I can't. I mean, it's frustrating. I've had people tell me, just do it first person, do it narrator, just pick one. And I'm like, I can't. That's not how the voices in my head work when I'm writing my characters. That's not how I see them interacting.
Yeah.
So it's very, frustrating.
Point of views in your stories then?
Oh
Mixed
yeah,
mixed
like
tenses, past tense, present tense.
it is at the very, like, the first book is a history, like it's based in, like, the era of the like medieval Arthurian legends type thing. Books 2 through 5 are more modern day contemporary like settings, and then book 6 is like Blade Runner and steampunk had a love child.
Okay.
Because I was like, I need to do something different outside of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
Futuristic settings are way outside my comfort zone. So, but like whenever I was writing them initially, I stopped writing them. I had parts of them, like almost full, complete books, just sitting around, never touching them or going anywhere with them. And then JL got me back writing on them. And then Chris kicked my butt and got me back writing on them. And then Square and Kalina climbed on board. So everybody's just like, do it. So I was like, let me try writing a novella. So I started doing the novella, and I decided I wanted to do it weird because it's me. So I'm doing moments from each of the books in descending order. So starting with 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And when you hit 1, it'll bleed seamlessly into the beginning of book 1, the actual novel.
Okay. That sounds great.
I thought, I was like, give them a little like sample platter
Yeah.
of stuff. It's probably really not a good idea, but I was like, well, give it a shot. But in working on the novella, it got me excited. Kind of like how you said you did different characters with different voices, so it kept you going. Writing bits and pieces of those 6 books, like if I felt like writing on 3, I could write on 3. If I felt like writing on 2, I could write on 2. And it's all a series, but they can be read in any order.
Okay.
So if you go to a bookstore, you don't have to get book 1. You can get book 5, and it'll make complete sense on its own or with the rest of them. Because I don't know if you feel like this as a reader plus as an author. It drives me crazy to go and try to get the first book in anything, and it's gone. It's never there. It's always the first or the third book that's always missing. Always.
Yeah.
So I'm trying. There's like JL has seen it. I think I showed. Yeah, I think I showed Chris the novella, and it scared him. Because it's so much, and it's fantasy. And I think Kalina's read like the prologue, but like it's I think it's good.
Yeah.
Whether or not it'll actually go anywhere, I don't know, but I'm gonna finish it.
Yeah. Well, that's the joy in indie publishing. You don't have to fit any format or standard. You can just do, like you said, do whatever you want, and whether it finds an audience or not, that's the challenge of it all. But if you're not interested in finding a huge audience, you just want to do it just to get something done and out there, then you've been successful. So yeah, just keep at it.
It feels like something like I said, it feels like a story that I want to tell, that I it's not anything I've read or seen anywhere else. So it's kind of like, that's one of the great things about writing books, and I'm sure you'll agree with, especially the books that you've written. They're your perspective. Like, that is your singular perspective on the world, on people, on memories and experiences. Like, nobody's going to be able to recreate what you've created.
Right.
And that's a little piece of immortality on a shelf somewhere.
That's a good point. Yeah. And also, when I was setting out to write these books, I wanted them to be something that you have not heard of or read before. I wanted them to be very unique. And I think I've achieved that. Although, within each of the stories, there are elements that you've probably read a zillion times, but just my own, like you said, perspective and spin that I put on it. I also want to mention as well, like you just said, you don't have to read any of these in any particular order.
It's so good to write books like that. I wish
Yeah.
more people would.
Yeah.
it's beneficial towards your readers, but it's also beneficial in a lot of ways, in my opinion, towards writers, because it gives you the freedom to focus on what you're doing within that one scope. But then as you move through it, you don't have to worry about matching stuff.
Yeah.
Like that's one of the things that would get frustrating whenever I would start thinking of the series. And then I've started a series of 4 prequels as well. See, over ambitious.
Mhm.
I'm a neglectful parent. They're all sitting around, and I need to do something with them.
Pick your favorite and raise them into maturity.
Yeah, I need to grow them. my Pokemon are just shriveled. But yeah, I think it's beneficial in a lot of ways to write like that, where because not everybody may want to read the entire series. Somebody may resonate really well with book 2, but book 1 or book 3 may not be their speed. But that still gives them the opportunity to hear your voice and your perspective and your experience with those characters. And that's great in and of itself, because maybe, people change as you read. Like as you read, as you get older, your thoughts and your feelings towards things change. When you're young, you may not necessarily feel like reading a whole lot of like stuff that's out of your comfort zone. I think when you get older, you're just like, might as well try it.
Right. Yeah. That's why, the first book is kind of quirky comedy. So if you're into that, but not really into the horror thriller, then skip number 2 and then maybe go to 3, which is more kind of quirky dramedy type. So the new book I'm writing is a thriller, mystery thriller. And I'm hoping, gosh, this is what's nerve wracking. It's like, I know there's an audience for these books out there, but I feel like my second book, The Savage Landfill, didn't make it as far as the other 2 have. So I'm like, am I picking the thriller genre? Is this going to be a mistake? So I don't know. So I'm kind of a little worried about that right now, but
see, like genre wise, I never, like, I don't know, I'm weird. I've never really focused on the genre as a reader. I like stories. So, I mean, I think that comes from like being a Star Wars fan too. It's like, I don't care where it's supposed to fit, where it's supposed to start. Tell me a good story. Like I am 100% in for a good story, which there's not been many coming out of Lucasfilm lately, but this episode 9 was so bad. But like I do want to talk about your last book, because the concept for it is very unique. It's not something that I've ever come across. The idea that this child is kind of walking, and then bits and pieces of plane and possibly people are falling, and then there's the knapsack.
15-year-old Mamie Blackhead is on her way to school one morning. She's walking when a small commuter plane explodes overhead. And as she's running into the woods to avoid all this debris flying from the sky, she sees this green neon knapsack hanging in a tree. She climbs the tree to retrieve it, and within the knapsack is the journal of a 15-year-old boy from England who may or may not have been on that flight. So as she's reading this journal and learning about this 15-year-old boy, little does she realize that it's going to impact her in a huge way. So yeah, but she's 15. She's, it's the end of the school year. She's, we're dealing with, she's kind of a loser in high school. She wants to be popular. She and her best friend have been invited to this party, this popular girl's house. So you kind of
God, that's not going to go well.
You kind of have all that going on in between the mystery of the knapsack and the journal of the boy, which the journal stuff is kind of all handwritten. It kind of started out handwritten.
I like that. I like that. I like the details like that. Like I
Yeah, it
like the fact that you have
breaks it up.
actual handwriting.
You can tell just by looking at these 2 pages that we're flipping back and forth from the 15-year-old boy to the 15-year-old girl based on the print alone. So yeah, I think it's a good coming of age with some mystery. You don't really know how it's going to end until you're there. Like the last 5 pages kind of wrap everything up, and then it's like I can't say too much, but I've had some good feedback on it. So I think what I was wanting to achieve dramatically and thematically was achieved for the most part. So I'm proud of it.
So why I'm always going to ask questions. Why choose an airplane crash?
I
I mean,
think,
is that something personal or is that something that kind of like you thought would be interesting to explore?
again, I wanted to keep the theme the same as the first 2. So where could stories derive from? How about, like, I think I thought purse, maybe like some sort of suitcase, like something that could tell us, the contents could tell a story. And that's where the knapsack came in. Now, why it came from an exploding plane, I don't recall where that came from. It
I was going to
just,
say it seems like very like Mary Poppins bag of things. Like you don't know what you're going to pull out of there, but there's always going to be something that's relevant to you.
yeah. Yeah, relevant to me personally. Yeah, within that knapsack was a Duran Duran cassette tape. So that was pretty relevant to me. I grew up.
They got some good songs. I mean, they're good enough that Vanilla Ice sampled them.
Yeah. So, yeah. So I think, I don't know. I don't know if I answered that question, but yeah, each book is based upon that concept of, like, supermarket basket telling stories from the items, Savage Landfill telling items self-contained from the people in the landfill, and then the knapsack.
It's like a very controlled kind of situation
Yeah,
with each of the books that you've written. It's very much like this is, you only have this much to work with to figure out what's going on in the book and learn what you need to learn from reading the book. But
yeah,
it does seem like almost all of the books that you've written have some sort of message in them, some sort of moral or something that you're meant to kind of glean from reading and experiencing the characters, which is something I, as a reader, like. I grew up reading books that have, like, books are supposed to change you. I mean, they're for fun, but even with fantasy or even with gore or anything you read, it's meant to have a lasting effect. Good books have lasting effects, and most of them have morals or have things you're supposed to learn from them. And
yeah,
those are kind of rare to find nowadays. They're more like everything's more written now like commercially, like just pump it out and get money, just like make it shiny and distract the people with things.
yeah.
So I mean, it was the title of it at first. Whenever you said the title on your show, I was just like, knapsack, what, airplane,
Yeah.
what happened here? But I mean, so why? Okay, I have to ask, why neon green, and why why somebody from England? Like, why choose a foreign country type scenario? That was just kind of interesting to me.
I think I wanted the mystery to be like, why was a boy from England on? Why is this knapsack on the plane? Like, his name wasn't on the register for the plane, so we don't even know if he was on the plane. I think it's a more deep, a deeper mystery. if you've got someone coming from England to Tennessee, because this takes place in Tennessee.
Oh wow. Poor
Uh,
boy, send him back. Send him back to the culture,
it,
please.
it's a fictitious city called Sundown in Tennessee. So
It'd be
it's
funny if that is an actual city. There's so many weird names.
yeah, I know. So I think that's why in neon green, I don't know. I just thought that was the most, it stood out the most. Like yellow is kind of standard, green. Mm. What's funny was when I was doing the promo, my book promo that I did probably a good 5 months ago, um, I was able to find a neon green knapsack online and ordered it. So it
Really?
plays a part in the promo video. Yeah, yeah. Um,
Well, there's also there is a Sundown Resort in
mm,
Townsend, Tennessee.
okay.
So, I mean, it's close, but like I was just like, there's got to be a name. We've got Bucksnort and all these other weird names. Why wouldn't there be Sundown? But apparently Sundown for a name of an actual city is far too normal for Tennessee.
I try to use fictitious cities, locations in my books because I don't want my work in progress right now. I'm using it's set in Duluth, but it's but the city like within the city, it's
Kind of
getting
like a township.
yeah, yeah. I I don't want someone trying to fact check every single element of my book. Um,
I can get that.
why I do it like that. Yeah.
Well, I like I said, I'm very new to different types of genres and stuff. So, can you explain to me like what is the difference between suspense and thriller? Because like thriller, I think more horror, suspense, I think more like drama. But I help.
That's a good question. I don't know if I have an answer for that. Um,
Well, using your books for an example, like you said one is more suspense, one is more thriller. So, what would be the differences between the suspense and the thriller in your stories?
more of a slow burn. Um, a thriller perhaps is more fast paced. I don't know. See, I use suspense and thriller in the same sentence. So I would say Life in a Savage Landfill is a suspense thriller. So I think they kind of go hand in hand. I wouldn't call one a suspense and then another a thriller, if that makes sense. Um, I think with I think thriller might be like the main category, and then suspense could be like a sub category within a
Like
thriller.
I've never, but like, is thriller more connected to horror, or is it its own thing, like its own thing?
I think it's its own thing.
See, I'm not very, not, I've not read a whole lot of horror books. I've not read a whole lot of suspense or thriller. Like I'm primarily a fantasy girl.
Yeah.
Um, JL and a couple of other people that have recommended books have kind of been breaking me out of um, the fantasy world into more like contemporary books.
Yeah.
But like I don't know why. I guess like growing up, I always wanted to like escape. So I was just like fantasy.
Yeah.
But I mean, I grew up reading classics. So I grew up reading like, Charles Dickens, Jules Verne, Mary Shelley Frankenstein, things like that. I grew up reading those books. Ironically, not Jane Austen until I got much older, which is weird. I still don't like Charlotte Bronte. I don't know what every girl everywhere sees in Charlotte. I'm just like, okay, to each their own. But I mean, it's just it's a very interesting concept that it's kind of like there are many worlds and you're just choosing which door you're going through,
Yeah.
essentially, every time you pick up a book, which is
I had a hard time with classics growing up. I have a hard time with classics now. if I were to sit down to read one. I'm like, I don't. And I think that's why I have a hard time with the fantasy genre, and the worlds are just so rich, and there are so many like complicated characters and names and locations. I think I
Oh
just
yeah.
I think I just get stuck. I want to like when I hit a complicated name of a character, it just stops me in my tracks. And I have to try to, and I don't know. I don't know.
I'm yeah, the Shadow and Bone thing that I'm doing right now, there's names for the magical houses or different breeds. I don't know what I would call them, but like the different magic workers, and they're all like it's like corporal Nikki or ethereal Nikki or something. It's like of all the words to describe that is what you chose, but I'm not even certain I'm saying it correctly in my head.
Right,
And then the names of the cities and stuff, I'm like I have to reread things like 3 or 4 times.
right.
This is a series that was like really heavily like this is awesome on Book Talk, and I'm just like, how do
Yeah,
you keep this straight?
yeah.
Like I feel like I need to be taking notes, or at least like ask Miss Bardugo for extra credit work because I'm not going to solve this.
That's why
It
people annotate now their books, which I didn't know was a thing until Book Talk. I'm like, really? Like, if I have to take time to make notes off to the side or annotate each page, it's taking me out of that world,
yeah.
and it's very distracting to me. Like, I don't. That's why I think I don't read many fantasy books. Um, and and if you get into reading any of mine, they're pretty. I mean, they're pretty standard. They're pretty.
Oh, I'm like as soon as my check lands, I'm buying your books. That's a given. I want to read them. I want to know what's going on. Like I would have already had them. Like that's the problem with baby podcasts. You're running on a budget,
Yeah,
so it's kind of like I can only do so much with what I have. That and being on disability, a poor fuck. So like it's like I have to really plan out what I'm doing. But
yeah,
like anybody that I ever have on the show, I always plan to buy their book, read their book, and write them a review because, especially with indie authors like yourself, like that's what gives you guys a little bit of a leg up with the trad pubs.
yeah.
What is she has extensive books that go into the history of the cruciferous. Well, I wish she would have just added I just give me an enunciation key. That's all I'm asking. I've been begging Pablo Hidalgo for decades in Star Wars. Can you please put in an enunciation key?
Yes,
So
the Grisha
many
verse.
places.
That word to me, like, I don't even know what that is.
Grisha is like the I don't even know what I would species. I like or like it's not a race, but jail help my brain it hurts. I don't know if I like they're different magic systems, so only certain people have that magic system. So would that be a species thing or a race thing? Because the people who are using that are the same race. They're all from the same country. So it's like,
It would seem to be a race, but again, I don't know.
see what I mean? It's just like
I think,
George R. R. Martin does it best. He's just like, these people belong to these people. This is what they think, this is what they look like, and this is what they do. And
yeah. So how does he write his books? You've read his books, Game of
I've
Thrones?
read a couple of his books. I've primarily read a lot of I've watched a lot of documentaries on how he writes. I've watched a lot of documentaries on and history, like the history that it's based off of. I came to it's a magic user. That's what they're called, magic users. So
Mm,
that's the denunciation of them.
okay.
I came from being a nonfiction reader to the world of smut, uh, but basically just because I was getting so kind of depressed in things that I was reading because it was nonfiction. I was primarily sticking to like medieval history, like Tudor era, and then working my way into World War One. That was like my area of focus. And it was really interesting, and I loved learning everything I learned. But there's a book. Where is it? Where are you? I don't think I can pull it. Yeah, there it is. See, this is what I love about having the library behind me. I can always pull stuff out. Well, if it's not wedged in there. Jesus, Mary and Joseph. So this book, it is nonfiction. It's written by one of my favorite historians, Dan Jones.
Okay.
This is the history of what the Game of Thrones is based off of.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So he actually did an interview with George. Is that a college? I can't remember what. It may have been Cambridge, but they did an interview on stage where he actually interviewed George and was asking him questions about the relevancies and the connections to actual history that he based his land on, his characters, the families, and things like that. And that's what kind of got me really interested into the intricacies of his world, because I was like, I know about the Wars of the Roses. I know about the Plantagenets. I know about that stuff. It's really interesting. But to hear George talk about it, George, one of the things he actually said in that documentary or that interview that he did with him was basically, I take all of the good bits of history and shape it to fit my narrative.
Okay.
So I was just like, it's working. You've got a multi-million, like empire, sir. You're doing something right.
Yeah.
But he takes so long to write. That's the only thing. We're worried he's going to croak before we get the next one.
Yeah.
Grisha is the term for them. So, okay, so it's a magic user. The term for the magic user is Grisha. Grishaverse is the fandom title of the series. The words that tell what magic they use is what I have difficulty with. So many, it's so Russian. I feel like I need to pull out some vodka just to be able to read the book. But I mean, it's.
Yeah, the reason why I asked you how he writes his books is because, like, I watched the show and it was obviously very entertaining, but it was also, to me, very confusing with all the characters and the worlds. And so I wonder if his books, does he do like one chapter focusing on this family, another chapter like I guess I wonder how he incorporates all that into one book.
For the most part, he goes through character-wise. Like, he'll do a chapter that's Sansa's chapter, one that's Arya's chapter, one that's Ned's chapter, Catelyn's chapter.
Okay.
But within that chapter that's focusing on that one character, it's the interactions that character has with the larger scope and their experiences, which makes it feel like it's kind of like from a window. You're looking out through this person's point of view when you're reading that chapter, when you're reading this chapter. But the series wasn't great. It did good things for other series that came afterwards. But as far as like the authenticity and the accuracy, George was just like, like Daenerys was not meant to die. That was one of the things that made me the most upset. I was just like, don't you do it. Don't you freaking do it. And then he just walks up and I was just like, you. Yeah,
like that last season, as everyone.
Yeah. I love Emilia Clarke. I swear, I liked Kit Harington up to the moment he put the knife in her. And I was just like, all right, you're dead to me, literally. I want nothing to do with you. I will not support anything to do with your career further. No, you killed my Khaleesi. Bye. I'm loyal like that to characters. If I find a character I love, I am viciously loyal to them. Yeah. But I guess it's my happy place. It's kind of like it takes me, like, I'm not trying to shit talk Tennessee, but it's like I grew up here and I grew up in a town that is very small and very small-minded. So it's like there are more cows in churches than there are books in the library.
Yeah.
So it's kind of.
I like that approach for how he wrote them. kind of the POV of each character per chapter. I think that works great. The new book I'm writing now with like my first books 1 and 3, I had first person perspective, and the second book I had like 9 or 10 POVs, third person. So the book I'm writing now, I wanted to keep it limited to just a few POVs, but that's very difficult when you're doing third person, because you're missing, like,
It's hard to bring somebody into the scene without being like the connecting of other characters from a different perspective.
Yeah.
It's like, I have to write from this viewpoint only. I can't do it. I need this person to say something.
I need to expose an element of the story that this person doesn't know. So how do I get that information into the story? Like, I have to. So now I think I'm up to 3 POVs in the new book, and I think I'm probably going to have maybe a handful of POVs, and I think that's okay. I think that's fine.
I think that's, I mean, whatever. My point of view on like that is like, if you like, I like, again, I said my writing style is not necessarily for everybody, but I see everything in my head. Like, I see the scenes, I see the clothing, the environment, I see it all. Like, it's I don't know how or why, I'm weird, but I can see pretty much every detail of everything that I'm writing, whether it's just that scene or the grander scope when I'm describing the world. I see that all in my head. So I write that as I see it, and I write it as the people in that world are moving about it and doing their book things in that world. So it's kind of, it's not necessarily for everybody, but it's the only way I know how to tell stories. That's the only way I know how to do it, is just to be like, this person has to talk to this person in this way, and the narrator is going to be off to the side going, this isn't what's really going on. You need to like focus in on what's happening here. But
you're like, I know you're atheist, but like, you'd be like the God character. You're overseeing it all, and you can talk about anything that you want that's happening.
Yeah, I can. They're all my little toys, and I can play with whichever one I want.
Yeah.
And some days it's good, and some days it gets really frustrating, like you're saying, because you have a character that you want to have interact with another character, and it's just the story's not there yet.
Yeah.
And you have to work through getting it to that spot where you're like, and now we can discover that. So it's a lot of trudging, but it's making me happy. I get to watch the movie in my head. So I'm happy with it. Like, speaking of movies, like, I know we talked about like limited series and everything, and you're talking about the stage interpretations of your books. If you did have the opportunity to either do a limited series or a film, which would you prefer?
For any of my books?
Mm-hmm.
I would want to do a limited series. That way you could guarantee everything that's in your book is going to make it to the screen. Yeah. I think limited series are awesome. Gosh, I remember when every season on regular television was like 24 episodes. And that's why the stories started to get old after a while, and they were jumping the shark. And it's like 8 episodes is like the perfect season for me.
It gives you just enough space to like tell the full scope, but not enough to where your watchers are like,
yeah.
I don't know if you feel this way too, but I hated it, and I still hate it whenever there's like a recap. Like, I remember what I just watched. That's why I'm watching the next episode. Don't show me that again. Don't waste my time. Just continue. Like, it's so frustrating.
Skip recap.
So frustrating. That, and why do we need the intro music on every episode? We don't need the intro music on every episode. That's not necessary. Stop that. We know the theme song.
Yeah.
So limited series. Who would you cast as, like, we'll touch your first book, who would you cast as the main character in that book? Like if you
Vincent.
had access to anybody, unlimited access to any person you could pull.
Wow. See, what's difficult with him is he's obese. He starts out the book obese, and then by the end of the book, he's, well, without giving too much away, he's not. Ooh, Tom Hanks would be good. Tom Hanks has kind of done it.
Really?
But he's a little too old now to play the 40-year-old.
You could use Brendan Fraser. He was in The Whale, so
That's
you know
right.
he can pull that off.
He can get another Oscar for Life
Yeah,
in a Basket.
I legit cried. Like he's been doing a lot. Like you ought to write it as a script and maybe send it in a few places, Michael. I'm just saying. You
Now,
never,
it was based on a play, so they made that play into a film. Yeah, yeah, that was pretty powerful. That was.
Never know. It's never a bad thing to ask. I mean, right now I'm harassing John Green for Chris, but just
Yeah,
like I'm always for asking. Like I wouldn't have gotten anywhere with, going to New York or having that experience or anything if I hadn't have asked Dan just to read my book. And like that's something that I've experienced in other facets where like I got to meet some incredible people. I got to have some incredible like experiences, and it's just because I asked. Like the worst somebody can say is no. Like
right.
it's. I mean, and once you hit our age, it's just like we've heard no enough. We get it.
Yeah.
We're prepared for the no. We expect the no.
Yeah.
But it's nice to have big dreams. Big dreams are not necessarily unattainable, and I think like as writers and as like from kids up to adulthood, as writers in our mentality, we're taught, be more reasonable, be more practical, be more realistic in your aspirations. When realistically, writing in and of itself is having a big wish, it's having a big hope. If you don't have the bigger scope or the bigger imagination, you can't do it properly.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. I've always thought about making a list of celebrities that I think would enjoy my books. A celebrity that might want to, like, they have their own production company. Perhaps they'd want to buy it and produce it. I mean, I agree with you. There are ways that you can contact pretty much anyone out there now. Even if you email.
If you're me, I can find anything I want on the internet.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they may have a publicist or someone else, running their social media, but that's not to say they're never going to see it. So yeah, I mean, that's, I guess, another way to market as an indie author, is to reach out that way.
It never hurts to ask, because I mean, everybody experiences literature in a particular way. So and we know for a fact that Tom Hanks is really literary. He's an incredible filmmaker. He's an incredible scriptwriter. So who's to say that if you sent him a copy of the book, he wouldn't be like, I could do something with this. I need to contact this guy. This is a good premise. This would translate really well. Like, you may not necessarily act in it, but you can't deny that if you have the Band of Brothers do your book, it would not be fucking amazing. Like, that man knows cinematography. He knows. But, like, that's another thing. Like, if you weren't directing it yourself, who would you choose to direct it? Like, because there's some of the big names, but then there's some of the smaller kind of indie, like, Sundance Film Festival type directors that might be a little bit more creative and a little more free with the way they interpret your book.
Right. Should an indie author go to an independent filmmaker? I mean, makes sense.
Like Marriage Made in Happiness.
Makes sense. Yeah. But also, why not Steven Spielberg? I could see making any of my books into amazing films. I don't know. It's, you know, and then we're very protective of our work too. So if I start sending books out into the world, part of me fears someone's going to take my ideas, maybe manipulate them a little bit into another story, but ultimately it's going to be.
That is kind of that's a fear of mine too. I don't like the idea of somebody taking a character. Well, I've already had it happen to me, but I wrote I wrote a Star Wars script, and I actually sent it out to through DMs to a couple of the big name writers in the industry.
Hmm.
Let's just say I noticed a few things in some of their more recent work.
Wow.
Yeah, I affected Star Wars canon 3 times. One by a creature I created, one by changing the chemical makeup of a planet, and one by inventing a new character.
Hmm. And you've seen that come to fruition?
I still have the screenshot of where I sent him the script link in the DM.
Wow. So what do you do about that?
Oh, I can't. There's nothing. There's nothing you can do. There are artists that have had their art stolen by the House of Mouse, and you can't. They're like if Trump had the lawyers that Disney had, we'd be in far worse shape in this world. Let's just put it that way,
Wow.
because they copyrighted the word sun. Copyrighted sun. SUN. They copyrighted the sun.
I didn't think you could copyright words.
Well, word trademark, I think, is how they've done it. But yeah, you can't use that on a piece of merch.
Wow. Okay.
They'll flag it every time. Doesn't matter what platform you use. If you use that in reference to their stuff, copyrighted. Can't use it.
Wow.
Yeah, I was just like, how?
I think I remember Swift years ago trying to copyright like a lyric from one of her songs or something.
Poor, like, I know everybody's like, you have to support Justin Timberlake and Taylor Swift. They're from Tennessee. And I'm just like, okay. I don't remember signing that on my birth certificate, but cool.
Right. Right. No.
But I mean, it would, I would love to see your stuff made into either the play or made into a film, because I think it's a unique thing that nobody has done yet, but it also provides, you know, like I said, that message to have people kind of look in the mirror of these characters that you've created, and not only take the trip with them, but also have that be more introspective for the person watching.
I always want my work to be grounded in reality, even if the circumstances or situations are like out there, which I think you could probably relate to that too in the fantasy world. You want people to relate and to identify with your characters.
Yeah, I like the main character. The main character in my work in progress. She's basically just reincarnated throughout the entire books, the entire different versions of the books, different characters, same core personality, but like she changes a little bit with every evolution. But that's kind of, there's one, like the first incarnation of her is who I wish I could be, a little more strong, a little more sure, a little more courageous about things. The second one, Alexandra, she's more like me than anybody. She loves research, she likes learning things, and she is no filter, I believe, is how how I've been described, is no filter. So about like that, which, I mean, it's not a bad thing. The people who have told me I have no filter, it was not meant in a bad way. It was meant in a loving way.
Yeah.
But yeah, it like the third one, Jessica, she's a perspective that I have on a person, like a person that I know, or have known, like in the past, not anybody more current, but in the past, that kind of just didn't know how to start their life, like kept doing all of the wrong things, and then just never got very far. And then the fourth one, who is the fourth one? I forgot. Isabella. She's what I wish I could have been in my 20s, like going to college, working in a library, learning, all of the stuff and that sort of thing. Like that environment, that's what I wanted to do when I was a kid. Like, well, I say kid, when I was like 20, I wanted to go to college to become a librarian. I like books.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, and that's where I hid in high school. I was the kid in the library that hid and did all the shelving for the librarians and stuff. That was me.
Yeah.
Nerd. But, and then Ronin is kind of the perspective that I have on if I had been this person much younger, like in my like teens, like 13 to like 16-year-old, I wouldn't have gone through some of the stuff I went through where I was bullied and stuff, because Ronan is like, you don't fuck with her. She does not, like, as much as Alexandra doesn't have a filter, Ronan is like, I will beat the fuck out of you at the drop of a hat. Don't insult me or hurt me or anybody I care about, because I will make you pay.
Yeah. So that's very therapeutic. Writing is very therapeutic for you.
Oh, yeah. Like, it allows me to not only escape, but to deal with the many things that I didn't get to become or that I wish I had become.
Yeah, you can do it through your characters. Absolutely.
But imagine like you're talking about, I don't know who I would cast as mine. I have like 40 plus characters. You have any idea? Like, I could make a list from now until Judgment Day and I still wouldn't have them all cast. Right.
Leave that to the casting directors.
Oh Lord. I'd only want to be involved in the main ones. That's the thing that like I had thought about pitching it as a script at one point, because I'm so good. I'm good with dialogue, minimal description. I can do that. But I was just like, if I can't be involved in the core people, I don't want no part of it, because there's very specific people I want, because the characters look very specific in my head. And if they don't match,
right. Yeah. I do have to sign off here in a couple minutes.
I was about to say we're gonna close out the show. Everybody, please make sure you go follow Michael on his socials. They are in the description. Make sure you go check out his books and check out his shows on TikTok. There, you said 7:30 to 8 o'clock, right?
Yeah. 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, usually every Mondays, I do a live, and then I just kind of do my thing for the first half hour, and then the second half hour, I'm starting to bring people on. So I do have an author interview this Monday at 7:30 with Michael Malwassel, and I'll do a little promo video on TikTok here. I actually have it ready to roll, so
awesome.
I'll send that out a little later, probably tonight or tomorrow morning. So, but I appreciate you inviting me on here. This is cool. Now that I know that this can happen, maybe I'll start.
Give it a try. Wow. It's a lot of fun, and thank you for agreeing to come on. And I'm sorry if I asked too many questions. I tend to pepper people with like, tell me details. But yeah, no, I really appreciate you coming on.
I appreciate you sharing stories yourself, and that kind of helps, gives me a little break as well. So it's cool.
I try not to talk too much. I've been told that I do drone. So we're trying to learn balance. We're trying to learn balance.
No, it's a good balance.
But we'll see you guys next time. Make sure to go check out Michael on the socials. Go check out his TikTok page. Go buy the books, because we want to support indie authors here. So always go check them out. And whenever you post a video, if you're reviewing his book, make sure you hashtag him. And I guess we need to say bye Dash, because we haven't said bye to Dash. So hopefully he's having a good nap over there.
Out on the patio this time. I think he might have heard him barking a little bit ago, but I think he's this evening he's doing well. So
that's good. We're glad. But we're gonna sign off here, guys. So I'm gonna hit the little button and then we're gonna say bye.